I'm Kelsey Crenshaw reporting to you live. Today we have a very special guest, Kelsey Copernicus, also known as the father of astronomy. So Nicholas, will you tell us about your childhood?
Sure. I was born in Tehran, Poland on February 19th, 1473.
I just want to tell you look great for your age.
Well, thank you. I had a father and a mother. I had a brother and two sisters. My father was a merchant, so we were well off. And we actually had a home and a cottage, and we had a very good life.
So tell us, Nicholas, when did you first become interested in astronomy?
Well, I'll tell you a story about my childhood. When I was riding on the back of a horse, I noticed that the faster I moved, the slower objects would move around me. And then when I looked towards the heavens, I would see the same types of things. And this really got me thinking about astronomy.
That's very interesting. So Nicholas, did you attend college to become an astronomer?
Well, actually, when I was 10 years old, my father and my mother died. So I had to go and live with my uncle Lucas. And he was a clergyman. So I was a pretty quiet person. So he felt like I would be good at that role as well. So between the ages of 18 and 33, I actually attended several different colleges. But astronomy was always my favorite subject.
Early on in your study, did anyone influence you?
Well, early on, Aristarchus actually influenced me a lot. I began to read about his theory that the sun was the center of the universe. At first, I thought he was crazy. But the more and more I read, I actually began to believe that this theory might be true.
Were you an astronomer by trade?
No, actually, I finished college when I was 33. And I officially became a clergyman. But I moved into a beautiful cathedral. I was looking enough to secure the tower room that had an open view in the night sky for my bedroom. I observed the sky every day and every evening. And I would record my observations in a journal. At night, I would serve as a physician caring for the sick and collecting taxes, conducting services, and other odd jobs.
What did you observe from your room?
Well, I noticed that Mars was acting peculiar. Every so often, it would look like it would begin to move backwards. That's actually when I thought back to galloping on the horseback. I concluded that we must be actually a planet that is spinning also, which would mean that we weren't the center of the universe.
That's so exciting. What did you do with this new information?
Well, I began to write all of my findings down in a journal and collect all of my thoughts there.
That's very interesting. How did everyone around you react?
Well, I was really scared about being punished, so I kept most of the information to myself. I was afraid that the church would be angry, and I was also fearful for people laughing at me. So I kept all this information written down in my journal to myself.
But everyone gives you credit as the father of astronomy. How did it get out?
Well, I had written many handwritten copies because I didn't want it to get out. But later on, I became ill, and I was extremely scared that all of this information that I had collected would be lost when I died. So I began to see about getting my work published.
What did you do?
Well, after I sent it off to be published, I was extremely ill. And so I was lying on my deathbed at the age of 68. And so after it had been off to the publisher for quite some time, one of my friends rushed the book into my bedchamber, and I held it with such pride, and I was beaming. But unfortunately, after that, I breathed my last breath and I died.
Well, what happened next?
Well, several individuals actually did read my book. The church, however, did not accept the truth for several centuries after my death. But the astronomer Galileo, after building a telescope and looked at my observations and supported all of my findings, some accepted it as truth at that point. But it really wasn't until later that scientist Isaac Newton further researched and finally allowed the world to accept the heliocentric theory as the truth.
Thank you so much for... So, Nicholas, will you tell us about the heliocentric theory?
Well, the heliocentric theory is that the sun is actually the center, and everything, all of the planets rotate around that. So, such as the Earth, it spins on an axis, and each revolution equals one 24-hour period, or what we know as a day and night. And then, as that Earth rotates around the sun, in a 365-day period is the amount of time that it takes for one revolution around the sun.
Thank you so much for joining us, Nicholas Copernicus. I'm Kelsey Crenshaw reporting to you live.